I have my girlfriend here, Robyn, who is my friend for 41 years. We met in 1980 when I started working at the haircutting place in Tampa, Florida. And it was at that time one of the hair salons. And I was a very green, just very different version of myself when I started working there. So Robyn has seen a lot of my different transformations over the years. So I wanted to start by talking about friends in general, because when I'm working with my people across the board, people have issues with friends. They also have issues with families, but they also, it's like friends is a very big deal. And when they come in, there's a lot of times that people do not have friends for a long, long period of time. People fall out for a lot of different reasons. And I wanted to share a little bit about my history with friends. So when I was a little kid, we moved a lot up until the time that I entered like the second grade. And we moved to my home in Tampa, Florida. So I started there at second grade, and I didn't have a lot of friends when I was growing up. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I was like not very, let's just say, graceful in life. I was very, let's say, shy. I was somewhat of a brat, and I was in a lot of ways just kind of like upside down. I had very buck teeth, and I got glasses in the third grade. And I was like that kid in the class. There was one kid that was like kind of worse than me, and it was because she would pee in her seat. And I'm not kidding. And I came to school the very first day that I had glasses, and it was in the third grade. And they were cat eye glasses, like that were popular in the 50s, and this was like the 70s. And I'm sitting in my class, and I've got my buck teeth and my cat eye glasses, and I was somewhat chubby, and I'm sitting there like, durr. And the whole class literally was laughing at me. And it was just unfortunate. I just didn't have a lot of friends, and I was always picked last, and, you know, for sports and all that stuff. And it was just not great. And then I found my BFF at the time, my friend Sharon. And she lived around the corner from me, and I would go to her house all the time. She would come and play at ours, and it was like a great friendship, like my best friend. And then I got Teresa and Mary, who might be on here somewhere at some time. They're my Facebook friends still. And one day I was at work, and my friend Sharon, we did a lot together. So one day we're waiting for the place to open, and out of nowhere, she tells me that she can't be friends with me anymore. She literally dumped me, and it was devastating. And she dumped me because I had gone from being that buck-toothed person with glasses and chubby. I got taller, I got braces, I got my glasses off, and she kind of went the opposite way. And when we were growing up, her mother always had her the greatest clothes, and it was just this switch for the two of us. And she literally was crying and said she couldn't be friends with me anymore. So remember, I'm always saying that we take on our belief systems through experiences. I was. I was, Angie. We take on our beliefs about things through experiences. So when I had that experience, there was a part of me that was, if I'm pretty, if I'm whatever, it costs me people. It costs me friends. And over the years, there were many friends that, for various reasons, came in and out of my life. And the reason that I'm talking all about this, and I'm bringing myself into the story tonight, is because I've gone through a lot with friends over the years. And I was looking at, when I was just putting up this post today, there's a lot of you, like Angie, you have been friends with me for all this time, and I think you and I would have stayed good friends had I stayed in Tampa. But, you know, I moved at a point, and I'm looking at all these new friends that I have, and it's very interesting to see where people land in your life, and those people that stay with you and those people that don't at all. And I'm going to say this is something that I've experienced and a lot of my clients experience. When you lose a friend and you have no reason understanding why. I've had a few people in my life that just stopped. And I would be like, "Are we okay?" "Oh, yeah, sure." But they weren't, and they didn't call, they didn't invite, there was nothing to that. And I never knew what it was. And one of them, she even passed away, and I never ever understood what happened with our relationship. So, friendship is one of those things that for many, many, many people is very challenging. And one of the biggest reasons is, I think, because of communication. So I wanted to say, and this is where my girlfriend Robyn comes in. When Robyn and I became friends, I started working there, and she's just a little bit older than me, and her and I just clicked. And to have a friendship go for 41 years like we have, there's reasons why it goes. And I wanted to share that tonight because I think that there's things that her and I do that a lot of people may not do. And there's things that Robyn has done in her life that I really wanted to point out because I know her very well. And she's had many, many moments in her life that I am like so impressed with who she is and what she does. So last weekend, she called me up out of the blue on like Thursday and said, "I'm going to be in town on Friday." It's like, okay. So I just canceled whatever. It was Nick's and I, our anniversary. We're like, okay, she'll come and we'll celebrate it the next weekend. So she came to visit, and it was like such a really good time. And it was like that thing, it's like family. And I was looking at a picture today somewhere, and there's those people in our lives that are soul family. You know, there's my family, and I've got, you know, two sisters, a brother, and I've got all these people that are, and we have a very small family actually, but they're my family, and they know me well, and we stick together through stuff because we're family and we love each other. But friends, it's like they can come and go. And if you look at how many people have been in your life over the years, there's not that many that literally will stay. You know, there's that saying that there are friends for a lifetime and friends for a season. So Robyn, which I'm now going to bring in, here she is. She's joining us via my phone. Robyn, I wanted you to be here with me tonight because I think that we share something very special. And one of the reasons why we have something special, I recognized it when you were here that weekend. And one of the biggest reasons that Robyn and I are so close, for me, I see, is because we really have, in all these 41 years, and this makes me a little emotional, she has supported me like all the way. And it's just such a great thing to have somebody who loves you, appreciates you, sees you, and doesn't go into judgment about things. They're just, you know, there. And then that person, and she knows that I'm there for her like this. It's like if she has something and she needs to call me, it's like I'm there. And here's how close. It's like when my father passed away, Nick didn't even ask me. He just called Robyn. He said, you know, be there for Audrey. She's having a moment. And I just want to say it's super important to be like that for each other. Too much of the time I see when my clients come in, or I see with these girls, you know, that are my daughter's ages, people have a tendency to get jealous, maybe envious. They want whatever, and they don't have it, and they see it in the other person. So it turns into somewhat of a, I don't know, like a battle. So with that being said, Robyn, what has kept you in all of this with this friendship of ours?
There's been a lot of things. We have so much fun together.
Yes, we
It's like
do.
being young and naughty all the time, even though now we're so much older. But I think the probably the biggest thing was that you really loved me. You really, really loved me. And I always knew that. And even when I would try to run away because I was having a problem, you were always there for me. And I remember asking you more than once, what do you get out of this relationship? Because there's been times where I've been such a mess, and I'll ask you that. And I don't really remember what you've ever said, but I know that there's been moments or longer than moments where you've gotten nothing from the relationship, but you still hung on. And I think that's been it.
I don't think that it's nothing from the relationship. I think that there's a part of it where when you were going through your moments, I could see how hard the moment was. And I knew that when you were in that moment, that what you were doing, let's just be honest about what she was doing, she just simply wouldn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
We can leave it at that. And I knew that it wasn't about me, and there's times I thought it was about me, and then I would think about it and it's like, I just knew that you were in your own stuff. And I think that's another thing that's important to look at with friendships. People have a tendency to take things personally, like whoever will do something, and they make it about themselves rather than understanding and taking a step back and looking at what's going on in the other person's life. And I think that's a big part of it. And when you were
Mm-hmm.
going through those moments, I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I loved you enough and that, we could work through it, or we might not, but I was always willing to be there as much as you were willing to be there, you know? And there's some
Mm-hmm.
things that you have done in your life, and I wanted to have you talk about that because
Okay.
when people are going through their stuff, it's really hard sometimes. I mean, I'll tell my story in a second and I'll tell the tools, I'll share all that stuff of how to work through things, but you do yours in your way, and I really appreciate what you do sometimes. It's like when you're working through relationship stuff and when you're working through, well, let's just say relationship stuff. I mean, you've got a daughter, a son, and a husband. And over all these years, like all of us, because I don't know anybody that hasn't had moments in relationships, when you work through those moments, there's this thing that you do. And I was wondering if you could share that with everybody because I think it's really, really powerful. And I'm hoping you know what I'm talking about.
Um, the only thing that comes to mind for me is that in personal and in familial issues, whenever something just really goes wrong, um, and I probably don't necessarily act like I wish I would, I will always go back and try to figure out what my part was in it. Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
What part did I play in this? And what can I do to change it? I can't change the other person, but what can I do to change it so that the next time there's a positive outcome? So if that one person that drove me out of my ever loving mind, is that what you wanted me to talk about?
Yes, that's one of the things.
Okay. I had a person that loved dearly now drove me out of my mind, and I realized that instead of getting mad and upset at the things that people do, now when I travel, I make sure I always get my own room. If there's an argument or an issue, I always go back and look at what I could have done different and at least how I respond so that the outcome, and it has been very successful for me to do that.
I love that you do that because that's one of the things that Nick and I in the work that we do, we show people. It's like take responsibility. Instead of pointing the finger, look at your own self and back up and understand your
Mm-hmm.
part, understand what you're doing. And then the other part, and this is what you do, you have compassion and understanding for the other person. There is that part of, all right, I get it that they're whatever. People are
Mm-hmm.
OCD. People are whatever bipolar. There's all these like diagnoses, but in reality, everybody just comes from their own trauma in life, and that creates the belief system, and it ends up being the habits
Mm-hmm.
that they get in. So people have their stuff, and when you can step out of blaming them and just step back and be like, is this really that big of a deal? Not really. You do that. And I think that's extremely valuable. When you were telling me that
Hmm.
story, she had gone on a trip with a bunch of women, and sometimes with a bunch of women, it's like it can turn into a bit of a shit show. It just can. I guess it can with men as well, and people in general. So when you're able to step back from the drama of all this stuff and you're just, coming from that place of compassion and looking at your own self, and then the other thing that you do, Robyn, and you didn't mention this, people have a tendency to be stuck in here's the problem, here's the problem. And Robyn's like, oh, all right, so for the future, I'm going to have my own room. And for the future, this is what I'm going to do. And for the future, this is it. Hey, Miss Cheryl Vassar is on here. Cheryl is one of my favorite friends. You would love her, Robyn. She is a character. I mean, she would have you just laughing yourself silly. So there's that part of things, and I love that about you. I really love that you do that.
Thank
And
you.
when we were talking over the weekend and you were telling me your stories, and the other thing is, Robyn can tell a story like I have never seen anybody tell a story. We would be sitting by the pool and she's just talking. I'm like fascinated just listening to all the things that you get
Oh,
yourself into.
I do get myself into a lot.
Do me a favor and tell people about that. So Robyn is she rides horses. She has her own horse, and her daughter has her own horse stable, and she breeds them and trains them and does all of this. So tell them what you do on your horse.
The cow sorting and stuff.
Yes.
Oh, it's funny because I'm not good at it, and I'm plus size, so I don't necessarily look like a beautiful equestrian. But it's so much fun to get on a horse and just dive into the cows, and you just separate them out. So the whole goal is to take a cow and move it away from its group of other cows and move it into, let's say, a different paddock or a different arena. So it's a blast. We do that. I try to do that as much as I can. It's a lot of fun. I'm not very good at it, but it's funny because I'm still a nervous rider. I've been riding my whole life, but I'm still a nervous rider. But it's so funny when people do take videos of me. You should hear me hooting and hollering and hey, and I just could fall off and break my neck, and I probably wouldn't care at that moment. It's just that those are those moments of, and I didn't have those for many, 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 many years, but I noticed that, and I'm doing an online course on writing, and that was one of the things that came up about those moments of just pure joy, like you have when you're a kid, or even sometimes as we don't get those that often, if at all. And that was one of those moments of me for pure joy was, and we do it at night in a cow arena, and it's a moment of pure joy.
A lot of people would never think to do that. And I think as we're ending this lockdown, I know you guys have been off of lockdown for a while, but I think a lot
Hmm.
of people are at the moment of being kind of shell shocked and they're trepidatious as they're going out. And I think doing something like that would certainly break the mold.
Oh, and it does, and that's what I did during the whole lockdown. I was very fortunate to have horses because that was a an outside, fairly unrestricted activity, and I could go on group trail rides because they were completely socially distanced. And I always get invited to go on the trail ride because I'm entertaining.
Hmm. You are entertaining. I'm telling you, she can tell story upon story. I'm gonna have to come and visit you and just like we're gonna have to just sit down and do one of these just live in person. So Robyn, I wanted to talk about something else because I have
Okay.
known you for so long and you have gone through some really dark nights of the soul. And there was this one time that you were having just a really hard time, and I think it's something important to talk about because when I'm describing to people the energy work that Nick does, Your story is one of the stories that I'll tell because I think it was so powerful of a moment. So, would you mind sharing a little bit about that? Because I think that sometimes people get in that dark night of the soul and they just get stuck in it. And I get it that yours was deep, and I know because we were there together how long it took to really come out of it, and the things that you have worked through since then and how powerfully you've worked through them. But there was that moment, and I wanted to see if you would share that with everybody.
I want to make sure I know what you're talking
When
about
you
because
came
I've
to
had so
visit
many
with
wonderful.
when you
The
came
very
to visit.
there was the very first time when I made Nick sick with all my junk. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, maybe that time, yeah.
That wasn't good. Poor guy was. I think he was sick for a while. He didn't think to protect himself, and all of my stuff just jumped out on him. So that was pretty bad. There's been a lot of really
But it was that first
impactful.
session that you came with your mother and your sister. And I guess that was the time you said I just kept pestering you because you weren't responding to me. And finally, you answered. And then you ended up coming to visit with your mother and your sister.
Oh, well, yeah. I was in a very, I had very bad postpartum depression, which also the postpartum depression hormones, but then on top of that, it just brought out every childhood issue that I ever had. So I was developing, besides anxiety, depression, I was losing my business. I was a hairdresser, and I didn't have a very bubbly personality at that time. And then I had trouble with my hands, which was most of us hairdressers did and do. And I was just sinking into this big dark hole. So when you came to visit, I remember seeing you and visiting with you, but then we wanted to get you must have been staying with a friend, and then you called and I just kept ducking you and you didn't understand why I wouldn't see you. And I think I was in just such a deep dark place. It was just too scary to try to come out. It's really being in a depressive hole is like if you can imagine yourself inside an umbrella that's enclosed and it's dark and cloudy, and I might want to get out, but I can't get past it. I can't get past it, and it's just too hard to try to reach out to have anybody try to even help. It's a very we should all be very impressed with people that get themselves out of depression because it's a really hard place. So then of course she went home and then she just kept calling me all the time. She just kept pestering me and pestering me and pestering me because I was hiding out pretty much at that point. I think I'd stopped working. I was probably on the very early stages of antidepressants when they just try everything on you and see if anything sticks. But that was when that was probably when you bugged me so much I finally came out. And I remember my sister and my mother came with me also, which was a very interesting trip. But that was kind of the beginning of waking up. There was the specific thing that I remember Nick telling me was that I carried other people's pains. And I had been told that, interestingly enough, by a psychologist later on. And I have learned how to protect myself. I'm an empath. And that isn't what Nick said at the moment, but that was what he described. I would take on other people's pain. So when I started having my own issues, being at the effect of other people's pain was just too much for me. And I think that was probably not one I don't think, I know that was the beginning of coming back to life was realizing that and doing the very extensive work to get the skills to move forward, and in the interim just to keep moving along until I got the skills, until the happiness and being the functionality became to go back. But the most important thing, of course, was having the friendship where you just never gave up on me, and you just kept pushing and pushing and pushing until I was able to break out from that umbrella.
Yeah. It's a powerful thing when you hit that moment. And I remember clearly your mother and your sister that day going, "What just happened here?" Because I remember Nick saying that your second chakra had just been shut down, and that was part of that postpartum business as well.
Hmm.
So when you were able to have the energy flowing properly through your body again, I remember the other part of it. You got off of those antidepressants like a week later, and then you were feeling everything. And I want people to understand, because this show, one of the reasons that I'm putting it on here, and I push myself every week to do this, because this isn't my like normal. It's, I think, important for people to get, even if you are in a massive depression. There's all these different modalities. There's all these different ways to click yourself out of it, and energy work from a healer can be a powerful modality for it. And when you then opened up your feelings, there was again that process where it was a very overwhelming thing, and you had to literally start understanding how to be in those feelings moving forward as well. So you
Hmm.
paused your phone.
I did.
Yeah. Or something happened here, because there's a, yeah,
I'm
you
gone.
paused your phone. Unpause it.
All right.
I can't even believe we're doing it like this.
I know. I can, but I can. Let me see. I see.
Yeah, look on the bottom of your screen. You paused it.
No, show.
I mean, we can still hear you.
All right. That looks like a photo instead of a.
I'm going to put it here while you're doing that.
Okay.
So, so the other part of it is, and I think this is super important because today's topic is about friends. It's like
Oh boy, now it's just crazy. Sorry. I don't know what happened. I'm
I'm so
sorry.
glad I have a sense of humor with all this stuff. So,
Yeah.
did I pause it? I don't think I paused it. I think you paused it. Yeah, it has to be on your end. Look, I'm going to end it and bring it back in again.
There we go. There.
Ta-da! Actually, it's even clearer. There
It's
you
clear.
are. Yeah, it's much clearer. There she is. Ta-da! so, so with that being said, Robyn, the other part of everything, let's get you in here the best. You have to have all these like, oh, there we are. We're like, there. That's perfect. Hello. So the other part of everything is Robyn never gives up. There were moments where it looked like you might have been giving up, but you didn't. And I was listening to something today. I forgot what the guy's name is. I think I'll see if I don't remember what it was, but it was basically he was saying that as long as you find some way to keep moving forward, there's this not giving up. And there were moments that you were in that umbrella, as it were, but you never really stopped pushing to try to move that out of there, and you paused again. I don't even know what's going on. We're going to have to just listen to you today for the rest of this, because I don't even, if you can come back on not being paused. Can you?
Can you hear?
I can hear you,
Okay.
but we can't see you, but we can hear you okay. And that's going to have to work for the rest of this call for the next 15 minutes. So that's the other thing that I think is important, because people have a tendency to think this is just my life, this is where I'm at. And Robyn, I've seen you go through some.
Am I there?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Mm.
Oh, I know what it might be. Hold on. My speaker. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Did I mute it? It's not.
I don't know if you can hear me, but mine just keeps saying poor connection.
We can hear you
It might be
perfectly.
internet on my part. We've had a lot of rain. Yeah, I can hear you, but
All right,
it's
so
choppy.
I can hear you and I can see you again. So the point that I was making with thanks by the way for everybody being so patient with my technical difficulties tonight. I think it's important for people to get. Oh no, it's just failed. I can't even go there. I'm just going to have her come and visit again so she'd sit here in my office with me. But the thing that I want people to understand, because when you're friends with somebody for this long of a period of time, and you have that bond with another person, and I've seen her through so many things, there's a part of it as well. I wanted her to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it for her, and I'm going to text her and tell her. Hold on. Please come back onto Facebook. There is this part of it with her where she is very connected with her faith. And there is a part of it where she has, through many of these dark moments, really leaned into her beliefs around this greater, whatever we all want to call it. And I've watched her in the depths of some pretty big despair, really tap into that source and trust in her higher power, whatever all of that looks like, to really go through the moment with more grace and having that faith that this will work out. And she is like a rock in her family, and the challenges that they've all faced, it's like, I think that she is that on so many levels, that thing that is, or that person that just keeps having faith in the people around her and keeps holding them in the highest and keeps doing anything and everything to bring those people to, a better place. And I think all of this is greatly important, especially right now, because we're in such a interesting moment, and things are going to get, I think, a little more interesting over this month and this next month. And there's going to be all of these things that are already divisive. We have various things, from the vaccines to politics to just local school politics. There's all these things that are in the moment of change, and it's important change. And I was watching a video today with Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton, and they were talking yet again about it. These structures that we have built up over the last hundreds of years, especially here in the United States, they're in the moment of a big shift. And these people that are in our lives are, let's just say, I think some of the most valuable things that we have. So it's important to really recognize and own the value of relationships. Like, I really value, hey, there's my girlfriend. I really value Robyn. And so there's nothing in her political, in her belief systems that I'm going to get into a battle about, because that's her business and I own my business. And we're all looking to have what's best and highest for humanity. So I don't get caught up in looking at what she does and judging it. She doesn't get caught up in looking what I do and judge it. We look and we find that mutual ground. And I think that's another reason that we have stayed so close over the years. It's not worth battling and ruining a friendship or ruining family over these things that most of us have literally no control over. So I think it's important in relationships, especially as we're, going through this time, to find those things where we can agree and not try to push the other person into whatever our belief system is. It's like we can all agree that we want what's best and highest for all humanity. We want what's best and highest for our environment, best and highest for the political system. We want our freedoms. So when you're looking at all of these things and you're putting your intention and your attention on divine right action is taking place and people are being freed, people are able to be healthier in their environment, people are able to be more abundant in their system, and we're electing people and having people in office that have the best and highest for all humanity. I think that those are things that we can all agree on. So when you're looking at these relationships, whether it is a friendship or whether it is a family member or whatever these things are, one of the biggest, most important places to put the attention is on understanding the other person and having compassion, kind of stepping out of our judgment on what we think they should be doing, what we think they should be believing, and all of that, and looking at, well, why are they doing what they're doing? Most of the time, it's not somebody's intention to upset other people, especially if it's a friendship. If they are upsetting, almost always, and I don't have my notebook here right now, but if I did, it would be saying it's unconscious. So when you're using, and this is getting to the nut of it in the last few minutes, that constructive communication format, I think that would have saved a lot of the friendships in my life. For me to communicate effectively and for people to have been able to tell me why it is that they were upset with me, what was going on with them that they would want to just dump out of such a close relationship. One person in particular, I just never knew, and she passed away, and it always was like, what could that have been? Because it just was, I never knew. So if you have somebody in your life that has been friends for a long time and you're in a place of anger with them or whatever, if there's something that's causing separation, distance, step back and look at you in it, like my friend Robyn does. Step back and look at, what am I doing here? What can I change? How can I own a solution in this to make things better? A lot of times we don't want to get rid of these people. A lot of people are very fun. And there's all this time that we have fun. And then there's this moment where whoever gets into their stuff and they cause a stir of whatever it is. So like when Robyn was here and visiting and she's telling me this whole story, the other part about it is, and kudos to you, my girlfriend, you don't talk badly about people. She's just talking about their things and saying, this is just what happened. It wasn't a, oh, she's this or she's that or whatever. It wasn't a hard conversation and her being unkind or cruel. It was just like, there's a lot of stuff, and it didn't make the vacation very good. So when she recognized she could step back from it and look at what her part was, all right, for the future, I'll do this. And that'll make it where I'm able to be in it in a better way. Hey, Della's here. Della is another person in my life. Della is my sister-in-law. She married my brother back in, I don't know, I think they just celebrated like 35 years, or they're about to. Della, you're another one. We've worked through a lot of the things over the years, and she's family. With family, you have to be there. You have to just continue to find a way to move beyond some of the challenges that can come up in family. And we have done that. Yeah, it's what in my mind, I thought it was 1983, but then I'm not so sure. Yeah, 1983. I remember when you two got married, we were just talking about it, how my brother fainted. It was a hard moment. But then he did beautifully through the ceremony, and it was gorgeous. Yeah, so whether it's family or whether it's friends, whatever it is, love is all there is. And at the end of the day, when you have had a life, it's these fun moments. Like when Robyn was here, I was remembering all these fun moments that we have had over the years. We've had a very good time. And when she came here just now, we had yet another really good time. I was positively like beaming while she was here, and it was like, what a fun surprise. And we just had such a good time. And over the years, she has been one of those people to make me laugh. Like, She's a middle-aged super freak. We've had some fun parties where she just is crazy. She's like a crazy woman. Yes, Della. Yeah, and you, Robyn, you know Della. You met her back in 1982. Yeah, she came. Yes, she came from Germany. That's right. That's right. So here's your homework, people. Look at your life. Look at all the people that you have in it. Look at if there's someone who you love and you feel estranged from. Step back and look at it with new perception. Remember, the belief system, intention is one of the controllers, or the buttons that is controlling attention and perception. See if in whatever drama had been created, if you can step back and look at it from a new vantage point, get a new perception of it. You know, look at the other person's point, look at what you might have done, and then look at that constructive communication. I think I have it up on my Tools for Transformation in the pictures somewhere. You can look it up there. Yeah, 1983 was a big night for everybody. I mean, a big year for everybody. So in the last 5 minutes, what do I want to do with this? Do I want to tell a funny story about Robyn? Robyn and I, when we first met, we worked with Angie at this place called the Haircutting Place, and there were so many moments there that were hysterical. I mean, just, we would do crazy things back then. This was back in 1980 to 83, 84, and we would go to New York and go to these hair conventions. And that was back in my very crazy time. So it's very blessed for me that these people stuck with me through all of that stuff. You can find Tools for Transformation on Facebook. It's Tools for Transformation with Audrey Newmont. And I put different tools up there. I also, one thing I do want to talk about. I don't know if you all saw Mainstream Metaphysics. It's on my Audrey Newmont Facebook page, but on Tuesday night, I had Kim Malice here, and she does this process, and I don't have the name for it right now, but watch that because it's really powerful. So my Tools for Transformation, that's in a book that I've written, and whatever my friend Kim Malice did to me with her energy business and this whole process that she does, I have been experiencing my own resistance and different things with regard to getting my book published. It's at the editors. It has been there for a while, and COVID happened and all this stuff went on. So we hold in our belief system blockages. You know, we hold things and it's like, I don't even know why I'm not moving forward with that. So when she came and did a session with me, not only was it in my thing, there were creative, what was it? Creative insecurities or whatever that came up at 6 years old, 11 years old, and at 16. And those things get like embedded in us. So there's this part of us that is kind of stifled with the creativity. There was also things having to do with grief and various things. I'm ready. I'm actually calling the book company and I'm just going to say, just do the editing. I don't even want to talk about it. Just get it done. But the other thing that happened, and I'm curious if anybody out there had this morning. This morning at 11:40 was the full moon, and I don't know what was going on, and I think it's important to talk about this. On my way to work, I got emotional. I mean, out of nowhere, and I just got teary, I got sad, and I was like, what is going on here? And so I put on a couple different songs that are good for me, like a prayer kind of song. Well, actually, one of them is Josh Groban and Charlotte Church. It's called The Prayer, and it helps lift me up when I'm having a moment like that because I had to come to work. But if you guys are experiencing these things, let it go, you know, let it out. So as I'm driving to work, I was just in it. And then I was like, all right, so whatever this is, I'm releasing it. I did a prayer. If you want to know more about prayer, go back in the Mainstream Metaphysics couple weeks. I talked about prayer in there as well. It's a really important time right now. We're going through a lot that is not obvious. So it's important to be kind with yourself. It's important to be kind with others. It's important to be patient. Like tonight when I'm thinking I could just bring Robyn on here with me and it didn't happen and I got to bring her in with my little phone. So be patient with yourself, be patient with others. There's a lot energetically that's happening. And oh, yeah, so let me see. Well, sometimes it is grief, but it wasn't the grief from my father. It was different. It was more like grief of what's going on right now in the world. There's a lot that's going on, and it came over me in like a wave, and I had to just be with it. And then I had to kind of realign myself because it was a lot. And grief is that thing. And I think that a lot of us are grieving that we don't have the same kind of world anymore that we did a year and a half ago. I mean, there's so many things that have changed. Across the board, things have changed. So it's like everybody's like, oh, good, we'll be able to go back to the movies again. We get to go out to dinner. But there's still this element where things are different. And I think they're going to be even yet more different. So it's important for us to be in our relationships and really love each other, support each other, communicate constructively with each other. And Robyn, kudos to you. You set a great example of just a brilliant friend. And I'm so grateful, beyond grateful, that you came last weekend and spent that time with us. My kids love you. I love you, and you make my heart happy, and you make me laugh, and we just had a good time. I don't know anybody else that I can sit in bed with and just have our morning coffee together. It was like really, really nice. So with all of that being said, I'm a minute over 8 o'clock. Thank you for joining me here on Mind Tripping. And I just want to say I appreciate all of the support for those of you that have been watching it. My last week's show, it went over 200 views. So thank you. And continue on with me, because as we go through these times together, we're going to be talking more about what we're actually going through as we go through it. And I'm here for you because I love you. And you go and have a good week. Bring those people that you're estranged from back in if it's possible, and spread the love. Okay? So good night, Nick and Jen and Robyn and Della and Angie. I totally appreciate you guys joining me here on this chat. And for all of you other people that didn't get into the chat, have a great week, and maybe you get in the chat next week. And there's Audie as well. So take care, everybody. Much love to you. Bye-bye.